off. Ça marche en tout cas.
Ok, bon, merci beaucoup. Just select PC externe. Yes, I think. It's on the room. No, it's the computer of the room. But if you want, I have a USB key.
You have a USB key?
Yes, you can put your computer. Yes, but I think you can connect later.
Yes, USB.
Yes. no, Ah, André de Palma. You speak French? Ah oui, bon, c'est plus simple. Ok, super. Bon, c'est vite. Ah, je me disais bien, vous êtes le keynote. Oui, oui, d'accord. Ok, non, bah. Oui, mais je pense qu'on vous connectera directement sur votre ordi. On sélectionnera le PC externe. Et au pire, oui, il y a le régisseur qui peut aider.
Il paraît qu'il faut matérialiser parfois le signal.
Does it match or not? Yes. Yes? Okay. Do you want to try? Yes. Oh, it's short. J'arrive. Okay. Yes. You can come here if you want.
Yes. Goes.
Yes? Okay.
You want to try?
Maybe yes. Attends, je vais la voir. Tu vas voir avec le boss si ça fonctionne normalement, mais c'est bon, j'ai mis sur PC externe. Ah, parce que je l'ai fait tout à l'heure. Normalement, j'ai mis sur PC externe.
Philippe, how long we have for the UERA presentation?
Well, the idea was a quarter of hour for you and Pia.
Okay, yeah.
So 7 minutes.
Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes, so it's connected. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I just prepare 1, 2. Yes, we manage. Yeah.
Looks a lot.
No, we can manage in 15 minutes. Yes.
Trouble is.
No, not yet because we have to approve. And I have to say something. I put also something about the publication.
Yes, you can.
Okay, in the last slide. Yes. You want to start?
Parce que là, normalement, il est bon, PC portable HDMI en diffusion. Et en fait, il n'y a rien qui se fait.
Ouais, parce qu'il faut débrancher, rebrancher parfois.
Okay.
Et parfois, c'est le PC
Because
Michel
I
qui
think
marche.
we needed to say something about the papers and something about.
Là, c'est sa présentation
Ouais,
qui compte.
ouais. Mais le problème, c'est qu'elle passe pas à la fin.
Ah, there's one B2.
Je savais que malheureusement,
I
vu
just
des
wanted
âgés,
to
tu
do
allais
that.
ça. Je savais.
On a le cake des compétences.
C'est ça.
Ah,
C'est tout à fait ça. C'est comme moi, je ne sais pas pourquoi, mais il y a des trucs, d'autres technicités comme ça, il y a que moi qui sais le faire.
Okay, that it works.
Yes, it works.
Yeah, perfect. So shall I just put it out here?
You can let it. It's better according to me. It's better.
Or you wanted to have something about the conference topic before you have a couple of slides? Or?
It's okay. No,
Yeah,
we have no
no,
slide.
no.
We will speak.
Okay.
So it's
Then I
okay.
leave it like this.
As it works, I think it's better to keep it.
Yeah, that is good. Okay.
So great. After you. better you stay here. It's more fluent.
Okay, fine. We lose the last time.
Maybe you could.
Yeah?
Yes, it's possible for you.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Ça marche bien en externe parce que tous les keynotes,
Bah.
sauf Georges Alexandrie où il est sur PC là.
Ouais. Mais là,
Sinon, les autres,
ça marchait pas sur externe et donc Patricia l'a mis sur PC fixe et elle a appuyé sur 2 boutons et tout marche. Ouais. Voilà, voilà. So, I think we can start. Aude and I are really delighted to welcome you to the University of Strasbourg, which is hosting this year the Urban Europe Research Alliance Conference. Thanks a lot for joining the conference. And I suggest we start straight away with the welcome words. So, Patricia, as head of the research unit SAGE, the floor is yours.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear partners, it is a great pleasure to welcome you to Strasbourg for the UERA Conference, which begins this morning after a busy afternoon yesterday devoted to driving urban transitions. Strasbourg is not only our host city, it's also a strong symbol. It is a city at the crossroads of Europe, territories, and societies. This conference reflects the main orientations of UERA, and they fit very well with the scientific identity of the SAGE laboratory. I would like briefly highlight 3 of them. The first point is the European dimension. Today, it is essential to think about societies and territories at the European level. Europe is not only an institutional framework, it is a space where ideas, norms, and conflicts circulate. At SAGE, research addresses this European dimension through public policies, territorial dynamics, environmental governance, and social mobilizations. This conference is a good opportunity to compare experience and to reinforce dialogue across Europe. The second point is interdisciplinarity. The challenge we discussed here are complex. They cannot be understood through only one discipline. Sociology, political science, geography, urban studies, planning, law and environmental studies all contribute. At SAGE, interdisciplinarity is a strong standing commitment. It is based on a simple idea. Complex issues need multiple perspectives. This conference clearly reflects this ambition. The first point is transdisciplinarity. This means a close relationship between science and society. Research should not stay only within academia. It must engage with institutions, practitioners, and citizens. At SAGE, we pay strong attention to our scientific knowledge can support public action, help transitions, and contribute to democratic debate. This conference fully follows this approach by encouraging exchanges between researchers and practitioners. These perspectives are closely linked to our main research themes. In particular, urban and territorial issues where major social and political change take place, and environmental issues such as ecological transition, climate change, and environmental justice. By bringing together all these dimensions, the UERA Conference offers a valuable space for debate, reflection, and collaboration in European open and constructive spirit. As a last word, I want to thank the organizers of this conference, which will feed the scientific project of our laboratory. I wish you a very stimulating and fruitful discussions over the next 2 days. May this conference be a moment of strong scientific exchange, but also dialogue, encounters, and shared work. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Patricia. So we switch now to Enza and Pia. Enza as chair and Pia as coordinator of the Urban Europe Research Alliance.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you and welcome to the UERA Conference. I want to thank you very much, Philippe, Aude, and Patricia, to host us here in Strasbourg. It's very exciting place where to start this UERA Conference 2026. I just would like to have a few words about UERA. Some of you knows what is about, but it's just I prepared a few slides about UERA, who we are and what we are doing. And I'm here with Pia Laborgne. I'm Enza Di Sandrello. I'm an associate professor in urban planning at Aalborg University in Denmark, and Pia is a researcher at KIT in Germany. So UERA aims to connect research performing organizations across Europe to strengthen coordination, strategic research planning, and we aim also to reduce fragmentation and optimizing knowledge and resources in urban research and innovation around Europe. So we work with several organizations. At the moment we have about 62 European research organizations connected in 23 different countries. We have several programs in which we apply quite regularly with our organization, and also we aim to have and to cultivate a vibrant community of researchers, professors, and PhD students, because we also value the different type degrees of career development in research. We matter because we aim to a scientific excellence in climate neutral, sustainable, and equitable urban future, because this is also very interdisciplinary field of research in which we need to have a different type of competences that are not necessarily just linked with urban research in a more traditional way. So we work with a more integrated, systemic research that try to bridge technical, environment, and socio-economic knowledge. We also work a lot with participatory and transdisciplinary practice, because we also have we aim to an impact in society. So very quickly, we have a governance structure with a steering board, with different type of competencies as well, from research strategy, international networking, policy interfaces, technical systems, governance, European research coordination. I'm more in the vision and representation of the alliance, and Pia is really the operational coordination also of the working groups and thematic working groups that we have within UERA. Maybe can give you the word. I will say a few words about the working groups. Yes.
Yes, we have 4 thematic working groups in UERA. The first is it was merged between 2 working groups on sustainable urban futures for resilient and circular economies. The second on accessibility and connectivity. And the third is about energy transition, human-centered smart cities. Then the fourth is a transversal working group on governance, participation, and also equity. It's missing here. So the working groups are a bit aligned with the pillars in DUT. So the first one on circular urban economies, then the 15-minute city pillar, and positive energy districts and neighborhoods.
Perfect. Thank you. And to end up, we also would like to focus a moment in the publications. You will find, of course, a book of abstracts of the abstract that will be presented today in the conference. We are also preparing the proceeding. Upcoming will be the proceeding of last year conference, that UERA conference that was in Rome. And this year, this is the important deadlines for the authors that wants to submit a paper linked to the presentations of today. The deadline for the full papers is the 1st of May 2026. Please send by email to UERA Plan AEU-DK, and then we will have a review round between 15 May and 15 June. Feedback by 15 of June. Deadline for revised papers 15 of September. And then we expect publication in February 2027, so about 1 year time. Thank you very much for your attention, and please join UERA, stay connected, and there is a website, and we are also preparing the next conference dates and venue soon, so follow up upcoming activities and calls. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Aude and I are really grateful to the network for placing its trust in Strasbourg to host this event after Karlsruhe and Rome. And as Patricia has also said before, we attach really importance to European frame and perspectives in Strasbourg in research and teaching. This year's topic is deliberately in line with both current events in the world and the strong dynamics of the research conducting in the Urban Europe Research Alliance and in Strasbourg about urban ecological transformation in a new geopolitical era, with a focus especially on nexus thinking in energy, food, and mobility transition. We would like to take this opportunity to thank especially the Interdisciplinary Thematic Institute Making European Society, the SAGE Research Unit, and the Institute for Urbanism and Regional Development for the administrative and financial contribution. And hosting this conference is all the more meaningful this year in 2026, which precisely marks the 50th anniversary of the creation of the Institute for Urbanism and Regional Development of Strasbourg. This conference is both European, as I mentioned, and interdisciplinary, focusing on urban and territorial studies, and it's also in this spirit that the local organizing committee has worked, including the Beta Research Unit, Bureau of Theoretical and Applied Economics, and the UNESCO Chair in Journalism and Media Practices, thanks to our colleagues, Asmaï Akzouz, Patrick Rondet, and Jeremy Picot. So many thanks for your organizational support, as well as special thanks to Patricia Schneider and Sarah Joubert for their practical help. Finally, we express our warm thanks to all the members of the Urban Europe Research Alliance Scientific Committee who participated in the evaluation of the papers and posters, including for SAGE, Patricia, Sarah, as well as Thierry Ramadi. And thanks also to the colleagues for agreeing to chair the different thematic sessions today.
So this makes the link with our extensive program, and the audience today is large, which is also a real source of satisfaction for us. Please feel free to ask questions during the sessions and to take advantage of the buffets and coffee breaks to network, which is also a very concrete purpose of such an international event. Summary programs are available to help you locate the 4 parallel rooms where the thematic sessions will be held. So the round table room is on the ground floor, opposite the conference room, where we are now. The Oceania and Africa rooms are on the first floor of the building. So Oceania is the glass-walled room that can be seen directly when looking at the first floor. And the Africa room is located opposite at the end of the corridor on the left. But of course, we are available to guide you if needed. We have scheduled the poster session directly after the lunch buffet so that we have dedicated time for it. And we will also have, at the end of the afternoon, a roundtable discussion with elected officials and stakeholders on regional biodiversity issues. So we have talked about interdisciplinarity, but we also need to talk about transdisciplinarity and about the importance of research with and for society, as Patricia said. So several sessions also highlight this link, including the interactive session on real-world labs. And without further delay, let's now open the scientific program with the keynote session shared by Enza and Pia. So we are honored to welcome Orsolia Küttel, Georgia Alexandri, and André de Palma, whose presentations will provide key perspectives for the discussions to come. And enjoy the conference.
Can you hear me now? It works, right? So, hello, good morning. My name is Orsolia Küttel. I'm the CEO of the Driving Urban Transition Partnership, and I'm very happy to be here today with all of you. We already had some exchanges with the UERA members yesterday, and I was also very happy to hear now the introduction to the program. Because you will see, I want to introduce a bit what we are standing for and what the Driving Urban Transition Partnership is aiming to achieve. And that wouldn't be possible without these very fruitful and exciting exchanges with all of you who are working in this field every day. And we hope to set up a program which can support these urban transitions. The Driving Urban Transition Partnership is a co-funded partnership. It's a public-public partnership between 31 countries and the European Commission. We have 70 organizations participating in this program, and the consortium itself is made up of different ministries, regional and national funding agencies, as well as some research institutions and strategic partners. But we are not alone, and we are building on the GPI Urban Europe program and its legacy, through which we already started working around 15 years ago, and which you could also hear UERA is a key initiative of. So we are not functioning alone. For us, it's very important to work in this very rich ecosystem of initiatives. DUT partnership itself is the research and innovation program of GPI Urban Europe, and it started in 2022, and it will be running until the end of 2033. So we have approximately 12 years of implementation duration, and for this period of time we foresee 450 million euro of budget, which is available for our activities, and most of it is eventually for the financing of projects in research and innovation of urban transition. As you can see on the map, we have most European countries who are participating in DUT, but beyond that, we also have a global outreach, and just recently, the Republic of Korea and Tunisia also joined our initiative, which truly enriches our approaches because we can broaden our perspectives even with considering global challenges and exchanging with global stakeholders. But what is our mission, and why am I speaking here today is practically because I think our vision is very much echoing with all what you already heard today and what you will be hearing today, because our vision is to contribute to a climate neutral, resilient urban future for all. So this is our vision. This is not only our vision. I think you could probably most agree to this. And we also, as I mentioned, have a lot of other initiatives on European but also global sphere which are contributing to this vision. So we are not fighting for this alone. How we want to contribute to this vision is actually manifested in our mission, and I will talk about that more in later. But practically, we are funding transformative research and innovation to build the capacities for all urban stakeholders and empower them practically to drive these urban transitions, which is needed not only in Europe, but even beyond. So the main question, how does our mission contribute to this vision? Because this is very nice what I just said, but how do we do that in practice? For that, we have a quite extensive program built up. I already mentioned the core activity, which is practically the annually launched research and innovation calls. So it's very important that every year we launch calls and we fund between 40 and 50 research and innovation projects. So I will talk about that later just to show you some examples, but by now we have approximately 100 and almost 140 projects running. But this is not enough, and we very much focus on extended capacity building and community building activities. So we have gathered our stakeholders in continuous events and workshops and webinars, both on-site and online. We have a very lively community. We often call it family who comes together during these events. It could be a project event or the biannually organized DUT conference. We are working together with many capacity building measures, and we organize a lot of exchanges. So we have an urban doer community for which I will share some information, because practically here we are working together local grassroots initiatives who are changing the urban way of living on the ground. We also work with the urban living concepts a lot, urban living lab concepts a lot. So we are organizing training sessions for urban living labs, and this is a key feature in most of our DUT projects. However, obviously, the implemented projects need to share their outcomes and the developed solutions with the broader stakeholder, with the broader community. So that's why we developed a methodology to pool this knowledge together, and we have established a knowledge hub, which is practically the experts working in our projects, exchanging ideas with each other, sharing the knowledge, and synthesizing the developed solutions. Therefore, we will develop a so-called innovation portfolio, which is the collection of the innovations which are developed through our project, but I will also explain what kind of innovations we are talking about in a second. So once we disseminated the results of the projects, it's also very important that we try to support the uptake and scale out, because we don't want to finance only individual solutions applied in a given context. The aim is how can we mainstream these research outcomes. Therefore, we gather practitioners from urban authorities in the so-called city panel. Again, we bring together these experts and practitioners from the field to exchange ideas with each other. We also try to bring together the challenge owners from the urban context with the developed solutions, which means that we launched some pilots, for example, in Germany on urban arenas and urban challenge. And last but not least, once we disseminated the results and hopefully the solutions are mainstreamed and replicated, we cannot neglect the fact that policy changes are also needed. So therefore, we try to connect our outcomes to the policy making, to the decision makers, because it's very important to connect to the big initiatives on European and global level, like the European Cities Mission, the EU Urban Agenda, or on a global level, the Urban Transition Mission. So if we manage together with you, and the if is only there because obviously we can facilitate these processes, but it's very important that we work together with our stakeholders. Then we have, by the end of the program, this DUT innovation portfolio, which is widely accessible and applicable. We have a strengthened community in the urban transition with an improved set of skills. We managed to establish a laboratory for truly transformative research and innovation funding together with our funding agencies, and all these results are connected to policy making and practice. So what we need from the mission to the achieving the vision is the impact. And here I can already refer back to the opening remarks, because what will guide us in this vision is that DUT enables impact through 4 sets of interconnected approaches. On one hand, our approach is very much holistic, which means that we are also very eager to promote inter and transdisciplinarity, so solutions and collaboration which are integrating insights across scientific disciplines, but also including industrial players and the civil society. It is very important for us that we want to co-create solutions that are innovative and that are practical, because you all know that urban challenges are very complex. We need to combine different perspectives to be able to develop solutions which are diverse, inclusive, and grounded in the real world challenges. Our aim is to create solutions which are socially just, scientifically grounded, and applicable. The next approach which I want to explain a bit is the systemic approach. Cities are interconnected systems. So even though later on I will explain to you that we do have 3 big areas of interventions, we cannot forget that urban transitions are shaped by overlapping social, environmental, technical, economic dynamics. And that's why it's very important to develop and identify leverage points. So with relatively small interventions, even on a local scale, we can actually reach wide and scalable impact. We cannot focus on isolated fixes. We need to think of the system, and we need to ensure that the changing structures and relationships in urban transition drive through city developments. We need to embrace this complexity because we can win a lot from it if we want to achieve long-term transition and not just the quick fixes. The third aspect I would like to address is challenge-driven. What is very important for the DUT partnership that we do not want to experiment just for the sake of experimenting and trying to develop solutions, but we want to address the real challenges in the underground, in the urban context. It's very important because we have so many multifaceted and interconnected urban challenges, or challenges as such, in the world right now. We could talk about the climate change, inequality, resource scarcity, and we need to think of these challenges in their complexity, but we need to also understand what is the most pressing issues, because they require urgent and integrated responses. There is no one size fits all. That's why it's very important to respond to the unique layers of each of these challenges, because with that we can ensure that the developed solutions and the urban transitions are ambitious in scope and, again, grounded in the realities of the urban context. Last but not least, it's very important that, as you will see in the DUT activities, we do not develop solutions for urban contexts and for the cities, but together with them, because our approach is very much place-based. We need to ensure that the solutions are well rooted in the local realities. They recognize the cultural, economic, and ecological differences in different contexts. It's very important, therefore, that all our solutions are bottom-up, so we always try to co-create and engage with a wide range of stakeholders to empower the communities to co-create these urban transitions for us and together with us, and that makes it inclusive and contextually relevant. When we talk about impact, we need to think again of an integrated approach, because practically we are working along but together with these four interdependent dimensions. So on one hand, we need to recognize that urban transitions shape, but are also shaped by the norms, by the behaviors, by the social attitudes. This is very, very important if we want to ensure social equity, citizen engagement, and cultural resilience. We need to reflect on the diverse needs, foster the community ownership, so they are really supporting the new transitions and developed solutions, and that we need to understand the sociocultural dynamics. And the second level of these impact dimensions, we need to talk about governance and policy. Because of course we need to focus on adapting the structures and strategies if we want to change the urban, or if we want to reply to the urban challenges. The multi-level governance aspect is like embedded into DUT because, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are a consortium of ministries and funding agencies, but at the end of the day we are working very much with the local level. So we really, by our activities, pull together many different levels of governance. This is very important because we recognize that we need to foster capacity building on all the different levels of multi-level governance. We need to adapt as much as possible the regulatory frameworks and policies, and we need to somehow balance out, because I already mentioned a lot our bottom-up approach, but obviously certain conditions can only be changed top-down, so we need to balance out these two approaches so that we can promote forward-looking policies which are responsive to the most pressing challenges. The third aspect that I want to shortly mention is the technologies and infrastructures. This is a very important dimension, of course, because there are different physical and digital solutions and systems, smart technologies, innovations that are needed, enabled to scale up solutions that enhance the quality of urban life, because that's our ultimate goal. It's very important that these technologies and infrastructures contribute to an improved urban life, whether it's the sustainability aspect, the efficiency, or providing access. This is important if we want to strengthen the resilience and competitiveness of our cities, which is very much in the center of political discussions recently. Last but not least, obviously we cannot make this work without the proper business models and tools. So we need to analyze the economic and operational foundations of these changes. We need to make sure that the developed solutions are socially responsible, but inclusive business models are being developed. This is very important if we want to scale up the financing and investments in our cities, and many of our activities contribute to improve digital tools and data-driven, transparent decision-making. With that, we can make sure that the urban planning and implementation is effective and just. How do we actually do this? Because this was more of an analytical introduction explaining what are the structures along which we are working and what is our aim towards this vision. But to be a bit more concrete, I already mentioned it previously that we are working along 3 thematic areas. So one of them is focusing on the mobility aspects, and that is the 50-minute cities. However, this is not purely about mobility solutions, but really rethinking the urban mobility system and the space in which it is embedded. The second transition pathway through which we want to achieve our vision is the circular urban economies, which is again a very much integrated approach for urban greening and circularity transitions, embedding many of the regenerative urbanism aspects in its scope. The third one is related to the energy aspects, so the positive energy districts, transforming the urban energy systems. What I need to emphasize now is that we designed these 3 transition pathways to work across silos, so we don't want to have like individual solutions. We always need to reflect on all of these aspects, because these thematic areas are considered as system lenses, not like individual thematic boxes themselves. Throughout the first years of implementation, we, as I mentioned, already developed and funded almost 140 projects, 137. You can see a bit the figures. Almost half of the projects are in the 50-minute city area, but we also have 40 projects in circular urban economies and 34 in positive energy districts. We, of course, the excellence of the projects is the key decision, but we always try to balance out the different projects even more, as we don't want to build silos among these three principles. By now we have more than 250 cities participating in our project, so this is a very broad reach. And just because I mentioned that we want to connect to other political ambitions of Europe and the world, 53 of these cities are from the European Cities Mission cities, and 16 from the Urban Transition Mission cities. For you, if you are interested, and if we managed to raise a bit of interest in our program, I also want to let you know that this September we will launch a new call where we will again fund approximately 40 to 50 more projects. And there are 2 more calls coming up in 27 and 28. So if you want to consider applying, then you have the chance. Last but not least, another interesting activity which I want to highlight beyond the funding research and innovation is that we set up the so-called Urban Doers community. This is not specifically targeting researchers, and I know that most of you are from the research field, but I know also that you are working together with urban practitioners, and therefore I want to raise awareness that we consider across these dimensions which I just introduced, that it's very important to strengthen the bottom-up approach, and for that we need to build capacities in many different layers of the urban context, and therefore we launched a new initiative 2 years ago, and this time we are already opening up again this opportunity for the second time to bring together local initiatives, grassroots initiatives, NGOs, transforming the neighborhoods in everyday life, and to make sure that we establish a community of practice where we empower them with the objective to bridge the gap between these small local bottom-up approaches and initiatives and the European and global policy objectives. So if you want, you can look it up on our website. We launched a call. The application deadline is the middle of March, and we will select 12 initiatives who will be working together then for more than a year, 13 months, and they will produce not only several case studies, but also a joint policy paper, which we will then send to the European, national, and local decision makers. When we talk about DUT innovations, whether it's the Urban Doers initiative, whether it's the DUT project, it's very important that we have a broad approach of solutions. What we consider as an innovation, it could be a new method, a process. The importance of all the developed ideas is that they need to be scalable solutions. They need to be case studies which then can be mainstreamed and adapted to different contexts. I already mentioned how important the business models are, the governance and collaboration models, but also that they are applicable toolkits, training materials, policy briefs, or white papers, then can have an impact to policymaking as well. And a last point which I want to mention is that once we have identified the DUT innovations for our innovation portfolio, we aim to support you bringing these developed solutions further. So on one hand, we need to scale out. I already talked about mainstreaming and replication. On the other hand, we also recognize the need for scaling up on a system level, so that's in reflection to policy making. And what is also very interesting, that we cannot forget about the citizen engagement and the societal needs. So we need to scale deep on the individual level, because as I said, like urban transitions are shaping the citizens and the local level as well, not only shaped by this engagement. So this is what I wanted to share with you as raising interest for DUT. If you want to learn more about our initiative, about the transition pathways, please have a look at our recently published updated roadmap where we describe all this in detail. And we also have a website where you can find a lot of other information, but please feel free to reach out to me. And I'm really looking forward to the discussions today because we are eager to learn from you and adapt our program so that we really manage to change the urban context together. Thank you very much. No. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Ursula. And we have now George Alexandre, Senior Research Institute of Technology Assessment and System Analysis, Karlsruhe Institute of Technology.
Yes.
I will give you a floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So hello everyone. Good morning. My name is George Alexandre. I'm a researcher of urban studies, housing and social justice at the Institute of Technology Assessment and System Analysis at TITAS at the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, and I'm also editor at the journal European and Urban and Regional Studies. So thank you very much for this invitation and for the opportunity to reflect on the drivers of urban transitions. It's a real honor to be part of this conference. And what I would like to do is to bring a bit to discuss with you the experience from 3 research projects that we are developing now at the KIT. The Horizon Europe Prefigure project, which is on the housing and energy nexus, the KIT funded project Net Zero Cities, which is on climate finance, and the newly acquired Marie Curie staff exchange project, the housing and wealth nexus. So to begin with, I think that we have all become increasingly familiar with the most visible images of climate change in urban environments. Wildfires in summer months, as you can see in one photo from Greece, followed by flooding, as we saw last month in Spain, for instance, storms and hurricanes in the US. These events make clear that climate change is increasingly reorganizing urban space, but in profound ways. However, climate change is not only reshaping cities through disasters, but through the infrastructural systems that sustain urban life. The politics of green and digital transition and the aspiration for more just urban futures are articulated through these interconnected infrastructures of housing, energy, and water that serve as critical supports for social reproduction and habitation. In this sense, urban transitions cannot solely be understood as a matter of decarbonization of our resilience planning, but rather as a central arena in where the material and social conditions of urban life are being reorganized and through which new forms of spatial and economic restructuring are legitimized. And this raises a key question. What happens when the infrastructures of housing, energy, and water become terrains through which urban transition agendas intensify processes of financialization and uneven development? So to conceptualize all this, I will try to bring into a sustained dialogue two closely related, but not fully integrated fields of thought: urban political ecology and urban political economy. So a foundational premise of urban political ecology is that the city cannot be theorized as ontologically separate from nature. Cities are constituted through dense networks of interwoven socio-spatial processes, and as Sikendo and Heinen define that these processes are simultaneously global and local, material and political,
human and physical, cultural and organic. From this perspective, urbanization does not unfold against nature, but operates through the active transformation, mobilization, and production of socio-natural relations. For instance, water is being abstracted, transferred, and redistributed through extensive infrastructures. Energy is channeled through networked grids, and the built environment itself is materialized through the transformation of stone, sand, debris into housing and public spaces. In this way, these natural materials are continuously reworked into the infrastructures of everyday life. So this leads urban political ecology to its key analytical concept of the city as metabolism. The city is not simply built environment, but a sociological assemblage in which metabolic flows of water, energy, and land and materials are organized through infrastructure, technologies, labor, and capital. These urban socio-natures are actively produced through relations of power that systematically favor some groups at the expense of others. The crucial question is how these socio-natures are organized under financialized capitalism. Here the question from urban political economy about the protection of nature becomes necessary. Neil Smith insists that the urbanization entails not only the material transformation of nature, but its reconstitution as exchange value. In other words, socio-natural conditions are priced and reorganized as moments within the process of capital accumulation. In this sense, the metabolic infrastructures of housing and energy and water are not simply conditions of urban life, but increasingly become the terrains through which novel values are being generated and uneven development is maintained and reproduced. So under financialized capitalism, this process operates through a further qualitative shift, the transformation of socio-natural infrastructures into financial assets. And I think that it is at this point where, in the financialization of urban metabolisms, that urban political ecology and urban political economy most forcefully converge. What is at stake in the contemporary restructuring of housing, energy, and water is not simply it's not simply commodification, but their increasing suburbanization to financial logics of accumulation. Focusing on housing, Manuel Alberis and Brett Christophers highlight that the fundamental tension that emerges when this social necessity of a shelter for social reproduction is reconfigured into a vehicle of value extraction, that is, into a financial asset. Financialization in this sense should not be understood as the expanding presence of finance within housing markets, but it signals another qualitative transformation in the organization of value. Housing is increasingly constituted not as a commodity to be exchanged, but as an asset through which rent extraction is intensified via speculation and the circulation of tradable claims on potential future rents. In this process of financialization, has also been described as the transformation of things into resources that generate income without a sale. In the case of housing, this relates to transforming housing into a rent-bearing property whose market value is structured by a future anticipation of a potential rent. This dynamic is inseparable from this broader transformation that Neil Smith identifies in capitalism relations to nature, the reorganization of socio-natural conditions as exchange values. In other words, the logics of financialization extend beyond housing markets to encompass the material environments and infrastructures through which urban life is sustained. Decarbonization and adaptation agendas increasingly operate through retrofitting, upgrading, and reconfiguring the socio-technical conditions of urban habitation. While articulated as a necessary ecological necessity, these interventions also constitute key sites through which new forms of financialization unfold. As infrastructures are enclosed, rendered rent-bearing, and capitalized as future revenue streams, urban socio-natures are progressively inserted into the circuits of capital accumulation. The state cannot be considered as external to these dynamics. State strategies are central to the extension of financial logics into the governance of urban infrastructures, for instance, through privatization schemes, de-risking policies, climate finance mechanisms, and the production of market-oriented urban governance. In housing in particular, the state has played a primary role in enabling financialization, not only by facilitating financial market expansion, but also by reconfiguring its own responsibilities. Welfare retrenchment, withdrawal of public housing provision, and creation of new institutional framework have opened up novel housing submarkets through speculative financial investments, leading to rent increases and housing affordability pressures that has urged many urban scholars to conceptualize the state as an active market maker in the financialization of housing. But at the same time, the state is a site and remains as a site of a political struggle. Policy interventions do not emerge as straightforward expressions of market imperatives, but as outcome of strategically selective processes that continually oscillate between the imperatives of market expansion and the pressures for social provision, legitimacy, and urban contestation. Therefore, the financialization cannot unfold as a totalizing regime, but rather as a fragmented, spatially variegated, and politically mediated process shaped by ongoing struggles over the governance of housing and other urban infrastructures. These contradictions are intensified in contemporary climate urbanism. States are increasingly charged with delivering decarbonization and resilience, and often do so through policy frameworks that mobilize market mechanisms and financial instruments, deepening the incorporation of social natures into the circuits of accumulation. The rising costs and spatial organizations associated with housing, energy, and water infrastructures are not distributed evenly across urban populations. Rather, those least able to absorb the rising burdens of rent, utility expenses, and climate-related retrofitting are precisely those most exposed to insecurity, marginalization, and displacement. And at this point, I'm sharing with you this illustrative figure on climate gentrification that shows how climate risk and adaptation operate as mechanisms of socio-spatial stratification. Climate-driven investment and resilience measures tend to reinforce housing market dynamics where high-income groups capture access to safe and better protected environments, as you can see on the top, while lower-income households can confront intensifying cost burdens and exclusionary pressures, as you can see in the middle. In this sense, resilience becomes not merely a technical response to environmental threat, but a driver of property valorization and displacement. Then urban transition agendas do not automatically generate that justice. On the contrary, they produce new modalities of exclusion. Intensified energy poverty under decarbonization regimes, displacement through green upgrading, water insecurity lead to commodified governance. These effects disproportionately impact racialized and migrant populations, while reproducing also gendered inequalities through uneven burdens of care and everyday infrastructural insecurity. But against this background, urban political ecology insists that there is no sustainability in general, but only socio-environmental projects that enhance the life conditions of some, while displacing risks and vulnerabilities into others. The housing, energy, and water nexus renders visible how urban infrastructures are increasingly reorganized through financialized and market-driven logics, even under the legitimizing discourse or environmental necessity, intensifying an urban developing along the lines of class, race, and gender. Climate urbanism exposes the structural limits and contradictions of market-driven approaches to urban governance. These pressures generated by decarbonization and climate adaptation increasingly strain the capacity of privatized utilities and financialized governance regimes to secure the basic conditions of social reproduction. And these tensions do not just intensify uneven development, but they also generate openings for political contestation over the organization of urban infrastructures. Across many cities, the housing energy nexus and water nexus has become a strategic site of struggle where residents, municipalities, and social movements advance claims for resocialization of life systems through remunicipalization of water services, demands for decommodified and publicly accountable energy provision, housing justice, and collective retrofit programs oriented towards social rather than speculative values. Such struggles point towards the emergent claim for social infrastructures and democracy, in which the governance of sociological metabolisms becomes a matter of collective negotiation rather than market discipline. In this sense, the nexus is not only a terrain of exclusion of dispossession, but also space of political possibility and imagination of alternatives. A site where the state itself might be contested and potentially reclaimed for reorienting urban transition towards climate and social justice, democratic provision, and the decommodification of urban natures. So climate change is not only transforming cities through environmental impacts, but increasingly reorganizing urban space through the infrastructures that sustain everyday life. Housing, energy, and water constitute a critical nexus through which socio-ecological metabolisms are being restructured, novel exchange values are produced and inserted into circuits of financial accumulation, and uneven development is intensified across intersecting social and spatial formations. The question that remains is not whether climate transition will reshape urban transactions, but how and for whom. Will these socio-ecological systems be further subordinated to logics on financialized accumulation and exclusion, or can they be the basis of collective and democratic negotiation, decommodified provision, and advancement of climate, housing, and energy justice? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Georgia, and thank you again to Ursula. I have a question for you, maybe just to have a little bit of links between two words that apparently seems different or different angles in the same way of looking at the world. And my question is about the transformative research that we have to think about. For many of us, engaging in the DUT projects also means to really engage with some of the society challenges rather than to be in our ivory tower and judge and be critical towards what actually has been done. So I would like to give you a little bit of this critical question about how you see, the transformation of research from your different angles. So how you think that, Ursula, you see the needs to be transformative in our way of doing research and engage with societal change, and how you, Georgia, see maybe the needs to deep down a little bit, to be a little bit going, actually engage with the type of problems that you show us, and still remain critical in our research, but still very engaged much more through really impact on our research in societal change. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So first of all, what comes to my mind answering this question is that in the DUT projects, I didn't go much into detail what actually these projects are or how they are implementing their approaches and research and innovation. But practically, we are funding transnational research and innovation projects. So at least 3 countries or applicants from 3 countries are collaborating in joint action. And our consortia are made of many different stakeholders. So what is crucial from our perspective as DUT is to encourage this exchange. I try to emphasize also in my presentation the co-creation, the power of co-creation, that we want to focus on the real challenges. We want to develop place-based solutions. And we are really happy to see when we exchange with our projects that in every project there must be at least one urban authority. But in most of our projects, it's rather 3, 4, 5 or even more cities from different countries participating, and they are working together with the researchers. So this is an interesting question, and I know we talked about that also yesterday, that when we launch a research and innovation call, oftentimes it's still the researcher community who sees and realizes the opportunity, the potential in this, and then they reach out to cities to suggest a collaboration. However, increasingly we try to set up mechanism in which the cities are in the driving seat. As I said, we don't want to develop something for the cities, but together with the cities, with the practitioners. So we try to encourage the cities coming up with their challenges, the urban practitioners to raise voices, to identify like this is the most pressing challenge, this is the issue that we are dealing with. The local context is also important because in a best case scenario, the municipalities and urban practitioners are the ones who know their citizens. And this is maybe the third angle, that our collaborations are not only based on researchers and urban authorities working together, but we very much encourage, and there are a lot of projects in which the citizens themselves or different organizations of the citizens, so the local impulses are also taken into consideration. And that links to our other initiative, and we also don't want to handle these initiatives that we are supporting, like the DUT, the usual DUT research and innovation projects, and the urban doers community, for example, as separate entities or initiatives, because the aim of having this community of practice with the urban doers, that we empower them to later on join these urban decision-making processes, to be part of these projects. And ideally, after they participated in this capacity building program for a year, then they can expand their network, they can get in touch with the researchers so that the developed solutions are scientifically proven and grounded, but at the same time be part of this hopefully transparent and data-driven decision-making processes for which then the urban decision makers and the urban authorities are in charge. And once they have this network, once we manage to bridge this gap, which sometimes is there across the different disciplines, then we will manage to achieve these urban transitions, which are real, answering the challenges. So this is how I would describe the transformative change that we would like to support with our initiative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I would like to support these arguments because from a researcher's perspective, I think against climate change, we don't actually know the dynamics and the drivers of change, right? Of transition, of transformation, and we need to experiment with new kind of methods, new kind of tools. I mean, we are talking later about the real-world labs and how society meets research and what kind of new knowledge can be co-produced. So, and with this kind of interaction with new and different kind of stakeholders, because we cannot be isolated in the academia anymore, as you were saying before, we need to make sure that we give voice to the marginalized. If we want to support our democracies, we have to understand what creates these geographies of discontent. And I think that we need all together in an inclusive forms work with this in order to be able to sustain what we already have.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think we have to give the floor to the rest of the program. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
sit. It's okay here? Okay, thank you for the invitation. 10:15. So it will be a little bit a different talk. And it's about creating a modern, creating a multi-agent modern. So it's a long history. Now maybe some can do it on ChatGPT in a few seconds. It took me 20 years to do it. So why do you are interested in transportation? Of course we say we are the guy from transportation, but after all, I started personally, I tell a little bit my life, to be interested in transportation, looking how ants, foraging of ants, how they find food, and I wrote an article about human and animal architecture. And of course, this looks like a highway, and there is no chief, that's the challenge, but still you have what we can call a self-organizing structure, which, and if you look at that, you have to look on the internet, because there are waves and so on. This is a chemical product, which and the force, the chemical force, are very short run. Still, this is a few centimeters, and it oscillates, and it creates very nice, Belousov-Zabotinsky, very nice shape. So you may say, how come you can create such macroscopic pattern? And well, if you look at city, and you look at congestion, you have also some macroscopic pattern. No, there is no chief saying you have to go right to F. Everybody has his own objective, but still there are zones where are more congestion, big congestion. If you break your backward shock waves, you can observe that. And the first paper or book is the Kinetic Theory of Traffic Flow by Prigogine, who was my supervisor, who was Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1977, and Robert Herman. I will speak about him in a few seconds. And the idea is to make a parallel between a fluid of particle and cars. Now people have added some behavior, but this basic framework has been retained. So, as a good economist, I say supply, demand, and equilibrium, right? Okay, there is few equations, but I have to say the last paper I sent to Journal of Urban Economics was rejected because they say, the editor say, the idea is very nice, but I am surprised it's not technical enough. I was a little bit discouraged because I think that what matter are article, not technicalities, but now, this is just the queue on the supermarket. You have some people waiting in the queue in the supermarket. There is a service rate which is S, number of clients which can be processed by unit of time, and then advance. And there are two types of regime. So this is the queue. Either there is nobody in the queue, you come and you are served, or there are people in the queue and you have to wait. When it starts really this queuing, this is a little bit debatable, and I call it Herman 1. So as I was a bad student, my supervisor say, you have to go to US. I say, please, no. Yes, you have to go to Texas. Awful. And then, of course, I was happy because there was Robert Herman, who is known for two things. One is the main editor, the first editor of transportation science, and second, he was working in Bell Lab, and he theoretically computed the 4-degree Kelvin, and for the little story, he didn't get the Nobel Prize. There is a little bias for experimental, I can explain in the coffee shop, in the Nobel Prize. So the guy who was experimentally discovered the 4-degree K got the Nobel Prize. So it was a kind of a character. So I went to see him, and then we wrote this equation, and then he said, well, but if you want to do some computation, you have to have some kind of smooth aspect. And this is an ugly equation, but what he say, I don't like discontinuity, I don't like king, because numerically it's a problem. So that's a way to make things smooth. So rather to have something like that, you have something, and it can be arbitrarily close to that. And then this is very important, at least numerically and analytically, to have smooth function. Okay, second, demand. Nobody knew about demand in Texas, so he said, why you don't go to see there down there in Boston? So I take the Greyhound and I went to Boston, and I knock at the door of MIT, McFadden, Mansky, and they didn't want to speak to me at the time. So, and Ben Akiva said, oh, come in my office, and then he said, I am going to explain you demand, and then he wrote this equation, which is you recognize as a logit equation. I say, I know that, because that looks like physics, okay? So that's the probability to live at time t. It's a probability. If you don't like integral, you put a summation, and this is it. You have the multinomial logic. I know that, yes. Well, the general way to approach that is to say, okay, is the probability that utilities of your choice is larger than the utility of the other. You don't know utility. Okay, I put a noise epsilon, this non-observable, and see, this is the big idea, I forgot to put in, of Turnstone, the law of comparative advantage 2027. So that, now, by the way, since we are in urban, for a reason I don't know, the Gumbel distribution, which has a very strong foundation, even psychological foundation, you believe it or not, but okay, there is a story. Why Gumbel is replaced by fresh air, but there is a long footnote by the guy who introduced that. I will not quote his name, but it's really exactly the same. Gumbel and fresh air is the same. Okay, so there are different derivations of this model, and some of the derivations are by psychologists, well, mathematical psychologists. There is a very good book of Luce who introduced this logit model without any epsilon and so on. He say, okay, if you put a certain number of axioms on the decision theory, you get that. Now, what is interesting, I think, is that if you look this ugly equation, you say basically what it says is say, okay, you want to minimize the total cost or maximize the total utility, which is the first term, but basically not everybody is choosing the best restaurant, not everybody is choosing the best road to go from A to B. There are variety, okay? And this variety is explained by an entropy term, which is how much variety you have. And how important do you care about variety is measured by one parameter, is the mu. So when you say, okay, I want to maximize this expression, I want the best in average, but also I want also variety, you get the same thing. Now economists call it as a mixed strategy. So, but that's a way to approach it. Mixed strategy is that if you play some game, you know, this paper and so on, the only strategy is to mix. If you have another strategy, you are dead. Okay, you have to mix to have 50% of the game. Okay, so that's a mixed strategy. So there are big papers by Tirol and other. The other information theory has also this concept of entropy. And for the little anecdote, he derived this equation, Shannon, who was also in MIT, and then he say to a colleague, how I am going to call it? He say, call it entropy, because nobody understands what is entropy, and you will become famous, which is true, but there is some root in information theory. And then there is own paper I wrote, which is a representative consumer, which means that rather to simulate all of you, I take one individual who is supposed to represent all your choice. But of course, this individual cannot make one choice, can make multiple choices, and in average, what it does is representative all you. Now the question is that, is it the case that this representative individual exists or not? That's a big question. Each time you aggregate, you have to say, I am allowed to aggregate or not. And the last thing, because we are in 26, you have to speak about AI. I have to agree, I don't understand much about AI. So they say, okay, given many possible action, prediction or explanation, I like is the next one, is the Bayesian B. I want to go. Okay, the Google or ChatGPT say go, so it do inference, okay? But I don't understand it because when I read that, I don't see any difference between my course in statistical mechanics. If you take the book of 2002 by Gibbs, who speak about this Boltzmann elementary principle, you find exactly the same equation and the same idea. But okay, I am not the specialist, so I don't speak. Now, what is the cost? When the cost is what do you want? I want to not to have a too large travel time, okay? Then I have the solution. You travel at 3 o'clock in the morning, no problem, no congestion. Yeah, but it's too early. Fine, then you want something else. What is the minimum you want? I want to arrive more or less at destination at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Okay, we put that together. So I want my cost is minimum travel time. Alpha is the value of time. There are books on value of time. That's the first term, alpha t. Second term is that the penalty, I want to arrive at 8 o'clock, I arrive at 7:30. Okay, it's not the big deal, but I could stay at home. Or I arrive at 8:30 and my boss is waiting and say once again, so there is a cost also, gamma, that you can measure econometrically. Now, supply is done, demand is done, it's really kindergarten speech, and stationary. Okay, stationary, well, you have to say, let's have a day-to-day adjustment process where people learn. And the process is the following. I have a best guess about, take yourself, you have a best guess about travel time, condition of public transportation, private, I go, I don't go, and so on. Inherit from the past. Okay. Then, yesterday, you had also this information, you made prediction, and then you observe something. So you update this, and this is very simple update, a linear update of on the travel time, and it's assumed, okay, sorry, it's assumed the information is shared by everybody. Otherwise, you have as many, it's very nobody can do it. So you share the information. In a sense, it's less and less possible because you have the telephone, and then this is really the way to aggregate. Okay, then the question, okay, what do you get? What do you have? You want to get the departure time, and you want to get the Q, the R and the E. This is for one route, but my question to the people doing big model is the reality show. We say, show me that on a simple example that I can compute analytically, I am not too good, your result compare with your simulation. If you can show me that, I believe in your model. If you cannot, I don't believe in your model. So you can compute analytically this problem. Okay, it's not amazing. You have a curve, okay, a peak, and you have a departure time. Okay, rather obvious. Now you can do that also theoretically at the limit. So remember the mu, the variety. If everybody is exactly the same, then you have also a solution. And your peak is just like that. Okay, the congestion increasing and the congestion increasing, and the departure, it's a little bit funny. That's was written the first time by William Vickrey, who is known because he got the Nobel Prize in auction. You have a constant departure time, constant departure time. A little bit unrealistic, but at least all the literature did that because analytical is easy if you put the noise and the mu and the... Okay, there is one paper and then it stopped because it's too complicated. Okay, so if you say, what is the impact of this mu? You have this theoretical, and I put more and more variety, and you have something which becomes more smooth. The mu is increasing. Mu is 2 is rather big impact on variety. Why do you leave at 6? I leave at 6 because I want to speak to a friend in the streetcar, and this I cannot model. That's the idiosyncratic preference that the modeler cannot model, but at least he has to put in this model this aspect, how important are owned, or because my daughter wants to go to school and revise the exam, or any kind of thing, big amount of reason that you can at least model the amplitude of this reason. Okay, reality show. Compare the theory with the simulation. The simulation is the lambda. And then you say, okay, simulated is the ding, and the analytical computed by, okay, a Riccati equation, I forgot, but anyway. So you may say, what do you say? I passed the exam or not? Well, it's pretty good, but there is this stuff you don't like. And now, Natalie, it's a question for you because I don't understand what I do. Rather to do a sampling, you have to sample between 0 and 1 and you sample. For reason I don't know, we did a systematic sampling. And if we do the systematic sampler, so that is you do 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, okay, so the number are the same, but I generate them order, in an order way. If you do that, you get, there are 2 curves, perfect fits. So so I say, okay, I cannot really mathematically explain all, but the fit between the simulation with a big modern metropolis which were 3,000 links and so on, for 1, and the theory is a perfect fit. Okay, this is done by Lucas Javedin, who just did finish his thesis last year. So, that was a bad question that Richard Arnold, my co-author, asked me at the beginning of the center. He said, we did a lot of many papers with 1 root, 2 root, 3 root. Why you don't do it for a general network? Okay, and that was a tough question, so it took some time. So we have, I travel, I don't travel. If I travel, which mode I take, if I take a mode, which departure, and for a departure, which route. You have the whole link, and of course, it has to be consistent, so you do kind of nested logic. When you select the mode, you know that you don't have to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning, or 4 o'clock, somebody was saying. She was saying there is only one train leaving. Zoé, je parle de toi. There is only one train leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning. You told me that? Okay, so you select the streetcar or the train, but then you react. No, you anticipate when you say, I am going to take the street. You anticipate that in some way. In some way. Okay, so a model is not a piece of cake. Basically, there are 2 simulators, I think, dynamic simulator in academia. One is the German one, MatSim, and the other is Metropolis. I will not discuss about the 2. It's too long. But so the first trial, very good student, perfect program, and so on. The problem, it took more than 1 month to run. So that's it. Okay, basket. Then I say I could not find nobody in transportation, so I am going to find a mathematician. And how do I hire a mathematician? They say there is a good guy in Moscow. I say, well, So I say, dear Yuri, or hi Yuri, this is a problem in functional analysis. If you solve it, you have the job. And then, of course, mathematician, no reply. And after 1 week, he say, I think I can find the solution. It will take 1 more week, and so on. So I say, okay, you have a paper in Econometrica because the paper was written, but the proof was missing. Okay, we knew it was true, but impossible. So you have to have some kind of better brain than me to solve it. So he came, and then it took him 1 year to understand the problem, and so on. And we come with the first simulator, Metropolis 1, in C++. And then there were 2 students working. There was Fabrice Marshall, who rewrote everything, because you have to rewrite everything many times. Okay, did an interface. We did a certain number of applications. We did even an interface with Visum, German software. And then we did a web interface, because unfortunately in modern, and I think it's true always, people don't care about all I am saying at all. They want to see the result. Unfortunately, the interface is the key. Where are your results? And why there are so many people on this way? And what is the accessibility here? And that's the question you get. So the interface is there, and we have a model project on compatibility between public policy, and one big part is a dashboard. To communicate to the public, you need a dashboard, that's it. Okay, so we did that in Python, Django, and then we say, okay, maybe we have to start again. Not on the problem, but now computer change, parallelization, and C++, so it's fine, the DROS is better. I read an article that CIA say you should use Rust because it's better, it's more secure. But that's not the reason I use CIA. Rust, it has to be clear. So we rewrote the simulator, and we wrote a certain number of external modules. So when people say, air pollution is important, okay, we did a module on air pollution. Air pollution, it's a little bit tough because there is emission of pollutant, then there is the propagation of pollutant, then there is exposure, and is exposure where the people are. But since we have a transportation model, we know at each time of the day where everybody is. So we can do the exposure, not at home, people are at home, I am never at home, at the place they are. And then there is, because we are bad economists, monetarization, how much it costs, number of years of life, less, okay? Matching, carpooling, and so on. Now, just to, apparently there is no more low emission zone, but I am trying to fight that they keep them, and rather to have big discussion to say, okay, we simulate in the France, on the mode, and so on. If you put the last PM 2.5, you can reduce by 9.4%. NOx, not very good. NOx for you can reduce by 10.1%. And surplus, okay, you can, well, it's a minus, but okay, the cost decreased by 10%. Now, the big problem, and I think it's true on each policy, is that people complain. And then there is what you have to do. You have to become a little bit smooth and say, I can track an individual. I can know who are the people losing and how I can subsidize them. But you are not giving $2 each day a check. So basically you say, okay, this guy, you are really worse off. Okay, you are entitled to an electric car. We subsidize your electric car because you understand that with the low emission zone, you cannot use your car, so you can purchase the electric car and go to work with the electric car. And then, of course, it has a cost, and you have to put that and to say, okay, when I compensate the worth of individual. Is it still positive? And the case, yes, it is positive, no problem. So in terms of application for large scale, there was an application line 18 in the France, and what I was happy is that we did the study for Société des Grands Paris, and they say, we don't believe you, and they redid all the study, which for me is good, and then they were convinced, and they say, okay, fine, we agree. The topic is really what is the design of a line, how many stop, the frequency, very small problem. But okay, you need a big, because it has impact everywhere. If you change the design of a line, it has impact on the other line of the public transportation, it has impact on car congestion, it has impact on departure time, it has impact on mode choice, and Natalie, you are not really listening at all. And he has listened on the long run on the location, because if you change accessibility, you will change the location, residential location, firm location. Okay, this is not there, we will do it, but of course, people in transportation forget. So we did some study about couloir réservé, reserve corridor, or speed limit, because speed limit, you say, is good to reduce the speed limit. Maybe it's good, I want to see, because if you look at the pollution in terms of speed, it's something like that. So, but the minimum of the curve are not the same. So you have really to do a model where you simulate everything to say, I want to see what is the impact on speed limit, on pollution, on congestion, and so on. And Société des Grands Paris, who seems to be convinced, they use Metropolis to do the CERM, which are the railway which deserve the countryside, and in Hauts-de-France, Lille and Hauts-de-France. And the question is that, well, you are against the car, but I have to travel 50 kilometers, and there is only one train at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you have to say, okay, we can provide you public transportation, but of course the main problem is that access to this public transportation, its own discussion is not my tongue, but that the key is how do you feed this stuff. There is some project in Quebec about they have a bridge on the Saint Laurent, and it's also streetcar, so we are working, or they do the job, but we look from far, Université au Laval. And there was a project with Kartsak in Riyadh, and that was interesting because they had no data at all. So what do you do when you have no data? So fortunately, you have internet and you can find OpenStreetMap. But OpenStreetMap is more or less good. So you have to work because you have to clean the stuff and so on, but we haven't going to do that. And then the OD matrix, okay, if they have no survey. So second best that we use is the telephone. So when you have the telephone, it's a second best because you don't know who it is. I like to know who it is, the socioeconomic characteristic, but still we manage to have a first simulation and so on to measure pollution first and to measure congestion and to speak. And there is ongoing, that's further by Polytechnic in Alger, where they are interested in their pollutionist, a PhD student who's working on that. Okay, advertising. So if you have questions, write to me. I answer within 3 days. So the Natalie, you want to say this nice conference? Yeah. Okay, we are organizing a conference about climate change as usual, but okay, it's mitigation, adaptation, okay. But we get together with people in economic of development, CITES, and so this conference will take the last day of May. Okay, welcome. You can register in the end of February. So we have a video chain if you want to look and register about 150. It's on the feed. I think that nobody can speak about big speech about everything. I don't. So we have a specialist to speak about electric car. We have a specialist to speak obsolescence, what you throw away. We have a specialist to speak about waste. We have a specialist to speak about city. We have the specialist to speak about finance, green finance. What does that mean? Is it a joke or is it real? And so on. So welcome to go there. And finally, I was convinced, so if you want to download Metropolis, say, I want to see, okay, you can go. You go to the website, there's the documentation, blah, 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 and that's it. I think I am done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andreas, for the presentation. And also for being in this panel and see how complex it is to take care about urban research and the differences between quantitative and qualitative research and the quantitative models that are really important still to evaluate a lot of solutions for sustainability cities. For the sustainability of cities. Do you think that modeling plays still a role when we talk about sustainability and sustainable policies in a time in which we have several also challenges that maybe change also our algorithms or our elements that we consider, because it becomes really complex in terms of scales, in terms of application that we can do, thinking, for example, about models related to the 15-minute city, so how we could really utilize some existing modeling to, map and give some kind of results, valid, addressing valid problems in neighborhoods and in new sustainable solutions.
Well, complicated question. It's working? No, it's not working. I have to use micro 3. Micro 3 is working. So, well, a model are needed, I think, as an exercise. If you believe a model gives you answer, okay, you are kind of lost. But it gives you a perspective. So, can you construct a model which does that, this kind of behavior, this kind of resource constraint, because after all, the amount of money is infinity. Time constraint, unfortunately, 24-hour data you have, it has to be consistent with the data. Can you construct this? And this is a way then to discuss and to interact, because sometimes, like the low emission zone, people, when I read the newspaper, say, why they say that? It's not true. So I don't say my model is true, but I say, okay, it gives you a certain amount of intuition. I got minus 9.4. If you don't agree, say which hypothesis you don't like. Maybe I did a mistake, but it's a way to organize the discussion. That's number one. Second is that, and I try to do that in the project, in a project where I participate, is the interdisciplinary is very essential. But the problem is that it's extremely complicated, because the vocabulary is different. It's really Babel Tower. So we are speaking about using the same word, and we are saying different things. But this is part of the exercise. So you cannot go to see a sociologist, a geographer, and say, I have a great idea. No, it takes weeks, okay, to understand. But if you think you use your time, don't do it. I think it is useful. It can feed the model. I didn't thought about that. It can feed the result, and it can, okay, give some clarification to geographer, and at the end of the day, when you come to decision maker, it never happened, but okay, you have some kind of speech where you have to organize this different, and you have not one guy with the truth, but you have different light. Otherwise, you have the coffee discussion, everybody speaking, in France they are very good, everybody has idea on everything, you can interrogate in street, but okay, it's very funny, but do you have some support? Now, model, it's unavoidable in the sense that when you look at data, the way you perceive the data, it's already a model, in a sense, okay? Because it's not like I look at the distribution, I look at the mean, another look at the variance, another look at the tail of the there is no mathematics. But I think it's very important the people who are suffering a lot. I think it's very important these bad rich who are producing a lot of CO2, we have to look at that. So when you look at something, you are already doing some modeling. So it's good to know the limit of our thinking, and playing around allow you to do limit. And the last thing I said it, but I repeat in another way, it's like when I have no medicines, but a medicine, if you don't read, is a catastrophe. So if you think, I am sick, no, you have to read le mode d'emploi. You have to, how it is useful, and that's part of a model. If you said give 3, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, how I can use? So it's a long exercise. I think is useful. I don't think it's unique.
Thank you very much. Do we have other questions? Maybe also for the other speakers? We have a few moments still, a few minutes. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. The question I want to ask is about the rate of error that sometimes you face, and what have been the big mistakes that you have made.
The work of what?
The rate of error. Yeah, right.
The error in, not my error, the error in the model.
Yeah, in the model, yes. And also the big mistake you have made.
Because my error is a long speech. I cannot even start. Well, it is a big fight between modeler in the sense that you may say, okay, error are things I don't take into account, I forget and I model. It can be, well, it can be measurement error. As soon as you have data, you have measurement error. It can be specification error. Okay, I use a linear specification, but it's wrong. So to excuse myself, I put some epsilon to take account, I did some error. It may be non-observable. I want to know the income of everybody in this room. So I have a formula, it come back, I have nothing. Nobody will give you the exact income. So it's non-observable. So I have to make some assumption, so I can infer the way you are dressed. I don't know what, but of course I make error. So you put that. Now, there is also the fact that, and this is in the way, when you do your welfare analysis, it's important to say, well, the reality is the utility or the C and that's it, or this error corresponds to some idiosyncratic preference I cannot observe, but matter for the individual. So it's important, your question is important because it has implication. If you put with this, you get what I think everybody knows here, the log sum, the accessibility, okay? How do you measure accessibility? Well, you have some probability to go there, well, but why not everybody has the same choice? Because you have this variety. And when you put it, you put. And I have to say, when you do a transportation network, you say, why you do that? I decrease runtime. Okay, we know. Okay, why you do that? Because you give more variety to the people, and that's very important. You can measure, and as very important, resilience and so on. But also, I can take route A. I can take more. I can go bike. I can go by bus. I can do that, and this has a value that you can measure, and that measure the amplitude, and which translate in the benefit approach, consumer surplus or benefit, or whatever you call. Yes. So, but it's a tough question. No, I mean, there is no. My answer can continue a discussion, but let's say it's something you have to look. What are these errors? How I interpret, and it's very important. Yes.
Hello. Do you have applications on the 15-minute city?
No. But we work a lot on, not me, the Société en Paris, but intermodality on one hand, which is not really an answer to your question. And we work a lot on accessibility to public transport. No, this is not the 15-minute city. Natalie, we have that in our project or not? I forgot. Okay. I discover all the truth now. Okay. Well, in a sense, the Frank-German project we apply speak about that. So let's say it's my wish. I cannot say that right now I do it. I am a bad guy. Okay. But I would say it's important. I don't know who was saying that, because he will not say. But the impact, you may say, I make this city very nice, very attractive, but if it increases the price of land, you have, okay, maybe only the big shots are there, and the guy were very happy and there since 15 years have to leave. So this is an answer to your question. It's important to do a model where you put this transportation affect the 15 minutes, but also the land use aspect to say incorporate. So, okay, my next homework. Thank you.
Please imagine that our other two keynotes are sitting here, which should be the case, and you can also ask questions to them, so the floor is open to all three of them.
The competition is the coffee.
We still
it's
have some minutes.
Otterling competition left and right.
If there is no question, Natalie want to give some information about the ICC conference.
So if you want to register to this conference on climate change, there will be several sessions on urban topics. So any relation between urban and climate change, we welcome submissions. And this is the fourth conference of a series of conferences, and 2 years ago it was in Strasbourg. The year before it was in Paris. Last year it was in Switzerland, and in 2 years it will be in Germany, in Hamburg, and it seems that there's a lot of people from Germany here. So if you want to, even if there are people from Hamburg who want to be involved in the organization of the 2027 conference, you are welcome.
Thank you. And if there are no more questions, okay, good.
I actually wanted to ask if we can engage both keynote speakers, colleague Georgia Alexandri and colleague, De Palma Andre, in a short conversation, because Georgia presented how political ecology and political economy are so important in considering sustainable aspects, also in the long-term future consideration of urban futures. And here, on the other hand, we have efficiency modeling. And how far would you, Andre de Palma, say that aspects from scientific angles of analysis, like we heard it in the first keynote, can be brought in a relation to your modeling, these larger frames? Or is there any relevance? Are there points of connection, or would you see this as completely different undertakings? Yeah, both can answer. Yeah. Yeah. I speak after. Otherwise, I don't want to be the monopolist.
It's not about monopolizing, but I guess this was a question that I wanted to ask you. How can we insert into models pressing questions of justice? For example, what urban political economy and urban political ecology put the question of justice at the very center of their analysis. And I was wondering if in econometrics you were talking about the representative consumer, the ideal, and this kind of nuances that develop. Sorry, I'm not very good in explaining that, but if we want to drive urban transitions into a more just future societies, we have to understand where inequalities come from. And I was wondering, how can this enter in econometrics? How issues of displacement or uneven development can enter? And where you have the right,
coffee. Okay,
how can you justify that the quantitative data, that the sources, the pools of data can actually capture these pressures that trouble society?
Okay, quick answer. Well, I am not such a bad economist in the sense that, or representing economics in the sense that in public economics there is a lot of research on inequality. Okay, how to measure inequality theoretically. Okay, it goes a little bit in banana space, fine, but at least they say, how do we measure inequality? Okay, and I was speaking with Piketty recently. I say, I don't like all this complex. After all, inequality is in his book. He say, okay, you take the 10 poorest individual and you look at how much wealth they have, how much property. But okay, there is a big research on this, theoretical and empirical research. So, and I think it's important. So it's not because you do a model that you care or you don't care about inequality. I would say that the fact to do because I say it's consistent with a representative, but I am not doing, I am shooting representative people, okay, because I like agents. So everybody has his own characteristic, and then you can approach that. Now, the problem, I think, it needs a little bit strategy, but I am not a strategy guy, so I would say I prefer to attack one by one, okay, to say, and the weakest link, because if you come with a big speech, I cannot. So the weak link is that, okay, global pollution, how do I care about global pollution? Fine, so let's go to the local pollution, then people hear, because local pollution is the ends now. Okay, and then you can speak about global and local pollution, but if people are selfish, you show this map and you say, these children are dying and so on, your children, and they you. Adaptation, mitigation. Okay, you can say mitigation is very important, but this time is more, it's more difficult speech. So my way is to say, okay, let's shoot on adaptation. And then, when you open the door of adaptation, you can say, Well, there are good adaptation and bad adaptation. If you put your air conditioning and you put 16 degree the summer and 25 whatever the winter, maybe it's not so great. So you can start to discuss, but you go to the people what they care now, and then you try. So there is another, so the pollution, I discussed that, local and global. There is some research we are doing, one with the two, don't listen to me, about emission of binding. So this is something you can say, okay, how do you, it's good to have this policy, but there are a lot of problems, right? And this is why you need model, because you say, okay, you change from electricity or from wood to electricity. These are the impact. Yes, but the problem is that there are a lot of rebound effects, and rebound effects are tough because the behavior of people change. So if you don't have a model to forecast this rebound effect, you are just naive because you say, okay, I replace this by that. So I would say I am not able to have a big view, but I would shoot specific topic where you have a chance to be heard. Okay, that's my strategy anyway. Okay, I think we will warmly thank our three keynotes because it's time now. So thanks a lot for this morning, for this session.